Okay, good morning, everyone. I believe we have a lot of new folks today who are joining us. Thank you very much. Um, I want to just tell you a little bit about Sharon. Sharon is joining us from California, so it's early in the day for her, which is why our meeting's running at a later hour. Sharon was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2009 after a number of years of experiencing symptoms, and I'm sure she will discuss that with you. She has read everything she could find on Parkinson's with a goal of finding a way to move on literally and not be defeated by the disease. She's always been a very busy person, and she continues to find ways to fit more into her days than the average individual. She writes a blog called Twitchy Woman's Adventures with Parkinson's. If any of you are not familiar with it, I encourage you to read it. And she, since the start of the pandemic, she has been hosting a twice monthly Zoom series for women with Parkinson's called Sunday Mornings with Twitchy Woman. So most recently, she sponsored 11 women to attend the World Parkinson Congress in Barcelona last year in July. She's known in the worldwide Parkinson's community, and we're very honored to have her speak with us today. It's one of the real perks of Zoom is that she can be in California. We can be wherever we're watching from. So take it away, Sharon.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Nancy and Angela and Carl, for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm used to being on the other end of these webinars where I'm the one who's hosting it. So it's a treat once in a while to actually get up and speak. So, yeah, I was diagnosed 15 years ago. Hard to believe how fast time goes when you're having a good time. Anyway, yeah, I was diagnosed 15 years ago, and let's go to the next slide. We'll get into my story. I just want to start with a couple of preliminary things. So the next slide, what does Parkinson's look like? Well, if you look at the drawing, the line drawing, that's the 200-year-old drawing of a person with Parkinson's, the typical old man hunched over, shuffling. And then up above him, we've got Jimmy Choi. And I'm assuming everybody knows, or many of you know about Jimmy Choi, who's competed on an American Ninja Warrior with Parkinson's disease. And then below, we've got myself and three of the women who came with me to Barcelona. And we are another image of Parkinson's. So you can see Parkinson's can be an old white man, an Asian man who's athletic, or a woman of any age. We come in all colors and stripes, and anybody can have Parkinson's. It's not just an old white man's disease. So, and the great thing is that many of us are thriving today. Where 15 years ago, if you were diagnosed with Parkinson's, you were told, oh, maybe you have 5 good years, and then it's downhill from there. And, here I am 15 years later, and I'm doing okay. Yeah, I've got my ups and downs, but I'm basically okay. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We've learned a lot in the last 15 years. So anyway, but the main thing is that many of us, not everyone, unfortunately, but many of us are thriving with what is now considered the fastest growing neurological disease, Parkinson's disease. And we're thriving in spite of the fact that there is no cure. So let's start. We'll go ahead and start with my story. Let's go to the next slide. So it started with a twitch. Okay. I was writing, and I was sitting at my desk writing, and my foot started shaking, doing this thing. And I'm writing, and my foot would shake, and I'd shake my hand out, and the foot would stop. And then it would go away, and then it would come back. And anyway, it came and went. And then in August of 2008, I fell. I was walking my dogs. I was standing actually in front of my house, and the cat across the street came out. My dogs yanked my leash, and down I went and broke my leg. That was my left leg. And then I noticed that the twitch in my right foot started coming back, and it wouldn't go away. So I went to my internist, And he said, let me give you some Xanax and see if that helps. Well, I took the Xanax and I felt really good, but the tremor didn't go away. So we let it go, we just kind of watched it for a while. And then a few months later, this was in like September, October of 2008. In December of 2008, I was diagnosed with very early breast cancer. I call it my barely there breast cancer. So, of course, that added to the stress, which only made the twitch come back in my foot and in my right hand as well. So I went back to my doctor and he did an MRI and everything was fine. He says, I'm going to send you to a neurologist. In the meantime, I'm scheduled to go in for breast cancer surgery, just a lumpectomy. I go to this neurologist and very well-known, well-regarded neurologist over at Cedars. And he does the usual, the usual thing, tap your fingers, do the, hand and nose, walk down the hallway. And he decides that I have a Parkinson's-like tremor. Now, what does that mean? I have no idea. A Parkinson-like tremor. He's not giving me a diagnosis, but he says, well, I'm going to put you on Requip and let's see if that helps. And he put me on that, and I had my surgery later that week. And to this day, I think he was just trying to be nice because he knew I was going in for surgery. But anyway, he put me on the Requip. I'm going through, and I had a lumpectomy and radiation. And he kept increasing the amount of the Requip, and I started having problems with that. And I finally called my internist after what came out of my fog of all this treatment for breast cancer. And I called my internist and he says to me, just stop everything. I'm going to send you to a movement disorder specialist at UCLA. Why he didn't send me there in the first place, I don't know. But as I'm sure many of you know, getting a diagnosis is tough. I was a woman in my 50s. Many doctors will look at a woman who at that age saying, well, maybe it's the hormones, it's this, it's that, it's all in your head. And I like to say, yes, it is in my head, but it's not the way you're talking about it's in my head. So anyway, so I went to this new doctor at UCLA, and we bonded immediately over the fact that she was into yoga and I was into yoga. I've been doing yoga for quite a while at that point. And she said, yes, you do have Parkinson's. We're not going to put you back on Requip. I think she put me on, I can't even remember. CoQ10 was the big thing at the time, which turns out was not effective at all. And it was just a very expensive supplement at the time. But she gave me some information, gave me some resources, which there weren't a lot. Even on the internet, there was not much available. The APDA was in Los Angeles, but it was very weak. I couldn't even find a support group. So basically, I just ignored my Parkinson's for quite a while. I was in denial. I didn't tell people. It just wasn't, it was much easier to deal with the breast cancer diagnosis. And I've written about that several times. And if you've had both, you will, and you read my column, you will understand what I'm saying. Breast cancer became the in thing, and Parkinson's has a stigma, the old white man, and I wasn't an old white man. So anyway, let's move on. Let's go to the next slide, because I don't even remember what was next. So let's see. Did I cover everything here? Okay. So anyway, so I went to this doctor. She gave me the information. What did I do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing for the next 5 years. I was in shock. And I didn't know anybody who had Parkinson's. A friend of my father had Parkinson's years ago, and I just remember him barely moving. But otherwise, I didn't know women had Parkinson's. I knew nothing about this. So I did some reading on the internet. I started finding books on Parkinson's and learned some stuff, but there wasn't much out there. There were a couple of bloggers, and that was it. So basically, I was going through the stages of grief like everybody else does. We all go through the stages of grief to come to terms with Parkinson's. It's very common. So I just wanted to stay in bed You can go to the next slide. And just eat chocolate. So this cartoon I had found for one of my earlier blog posts called "It's My Pity Party and I'll Cry If I Want to." And this is basically how I felt. I just wanted to stay home, eat chocolate, read a book, or watch TV and do nothing. And it took 5 years for me to go to my first Parkinson's event ever. And that was in Pasadena, California, and it was put on by the Fox Foundation. It was a big symposium. There must have been 500 people there, and I dragged my husband along with me. And it was an eye-opener because there were people who had Parkinson's who were doing really well. And I didn't know anything about this. I really didn't know much about it. And this was 5 years into it. And the great thing about that conference was I had heard about Rock Steady Boxing. I couldn't find it near me anywhere. And I found two people who were offering it. I found one in Santa Monica and the other one in the Valley. So I found a place to go to, which really helped a lot. So here I'm still in denial. I'm not telling people that I have Parkinson's, but I'm finally starting to go to things. And then what started happening was I started getting phone calls from friends, from relatives. Can you talk to so-and-so about Parkinson's? And I hadn't even come out in public. I didn't tell people I had it, but they knew. When you have a tremor that, when you're shaking like this, they know what you've got. And I was spending a lot of time on the phone with people that I didn't know, meeting people for coffee at Starbucks, talking to them about living with Parkinson's. And I had no idea what I was talking about, honestly. But I was there. I was somebody for them to listen to. And I thought maybe I should start writing something, write it out. And I'm not a writer. I'll write it out and I'll send it out to the people that I know. And, when somebody calls me, I can send it out to them. So I wrote my first column. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. So that was really the start of my advocacy. But we'll put that off for a second. Let's go into the disease progression itself before I talk more about my advocacy journey. So what does it feel like to live with Parkinson's disease? You're all living with it. You know what it's like. Does your care partner know what it's like? Do your friends know what it's like? This drawing was made by Johnny Atchison, who is a physician in the UK and has YOPD, young onset Parkinson's. And he started doing these cartoons about living with Parkinson's. And this is a great image because it has so many different symptoms and I'm sure you can all find several things on there that apply to you. And the other thing is, everybody has different symptoms. I'm on tremor dominant, which my doctor said to me is a slower progressing type of Parkinson's, and she was right. Other people have stiffness, rigidity. We all have sleep issues. Freezing. I don't have freezing. Other people have freezing issues, gait balance issues. So I'm sure you can all find something on here. And everybody's progression is different. You'll have 5 good years applies to some people, but certainly not all. I've got 15 good years and I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. So anyway, let's go to the next slide. So what works for me? Exercise, 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 exercise. I can't say enough about the importance of exercise. When I was diagnosed, no doctors were prescribing exercise. Today, I would say 95% of them are saying exercise is part of, look at your exercise as part of your medication. It is so necessary for us to exercise, to be able to move, to be able to sleep, to be able to get out and be in the world. I think that is really the main thing. And high intensity exercise is the best. Walking your dog, okay, that's not quite exercise. The dog stops every 2 feet to mark a tree or a bush. But if you get out and you walk, and I use Jimmy Choi as a great example. He was diagnosed when he was like 29 years old. He had 2 young children. and he gained a lot of weight, and he fell down the stairs carrying his son one day and realized that he had to do something, because at that point he was like 35 years old and walking with a cane. And he started by walking to the corner and then to the next block and the next block. And by the end of the year, was running half marathons, and now runs marathons. He competes on American Ninja Warrior. We can't all be American Ninja Warriors, but we can certainly increase our exercise at a slow pace, to where we are getting high intensity exercise. So don't start at the top. If you have an exercise, start slowly and add on to it every day. Staying social. Isolation is one of the biggest predictors of bad outcome with Parkinson's. Human beings are social beings. We need other people around us. We need to talk to other people. And staying social is very important. Don't stay away from your friends because you have Parkinson's. They're there to, they were your friends before. Hopefully they'll still be your friends. But you're also going to find you're going to have Parkinson's friends, whether it's going to rock steady boxing classes or dancing for Parkinson's or a support group. You find a group of people who are your people, your Parkinson's people. And they are invaluable to you. They understand what you're going through, unlike the non-Parkies out there. Sleep. I can't emphasize sleep enough. How many of you are out there, up in the middle of the night, 2, 3, 4 times, can't get back to sleep? It's a real problem. But we've got to find ways to sleep. Medications are so important. If you are putting off taking medication, think to yourself, why am I putting off medication? It's really important that you start earlier rather than later. I know they say, some medications have after so many years, especially Cinemet, it becomes less effective. But I've been taking it for 10 years and I'm doing okay. Like I said, everybody is different, but you have to take your medication. You have to take it on time. It's really important. Learning new things. I have been going to improv classes with Carl and Angela, which is a blast. Work on a foreign language, playing piano again, boxing, doing all kinds of new things. It helps your brain. It increases the neuroplasticity in your brain. And then one of the things we found is that having a peer mentor, if you're newly diagnosed and you need somebody to talk to, find someone with Parkinson's who you can become a friend with. And we'll talk about that later, because this is something we really got into with Twitchy Women. So let's go to the next slide.
Actually, Sharon, before we go on to the next slide, Carl put a question in the chat. He says he's a huge proponent of stress relief and Parkinson's, whether that's meditation, Reiki, or exercise. What do you do that works for you regarding stress relief?
Oh, I don't know. Exercise. Exercise helps. It really does. It really helps a lot. If you get on, you get on your exercise bike, you're dreading it, you don't want to do it, and then you get off, you feel like, oh my God, I feel so much better. It really helps with the stress. Meditation helps a lot. There's an app called Calm, which is great. I find the people I like to listen to, I like the sleep meditations, but they have a lot of really wonderful things. Music, sometimes music is great. Reading for me, I just pass out. That does help. But stress relief, it's tough. It really is. And you just have to find what works for you, whether it's meditation, exercise, being with friends. It's really important, and and I've been taking an antidepressant for years, and most people with Parkinson's are taking an antidepressant. I found that I was having panic attacks and anxiety issues, and it really calms it down. And I know there's a large segment of people who say, I don't want to take that. Well, you know what? Then don't. But for me, that's what helps a lot. And when I was switching antidepressants, my doctor decided it was time to take me off the one I was on and put me on something else. And that was a disaster for me. And I had to go back to what I was on and slowly go off of that and on to something else. But it's tough. It's tough. Stress is an issue. Obviously, before I was diagnosed, when it broke my leg, the stress of it brought the tremor back out. So I hope that
Thank
answers
you.
your question, Carl.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here we get into the what I call myself now is the accidental advocate, because I didn't set out to be an advocate. It just sort of happened. I had been involved in other organizations. I had been leading other organizations, but I didn't seek out when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I didn't see myself as somebody who would be helping others doing this, get through this. I didn't see myself as an advocate, but when I started getting those phone calls, the first time I responded to somebody, I was an advocate. And I'm sure many of you have gotten those phone calls. Can you talk to somebody? And the minute you start helping somebody else, you're doing advocacy. So when we talk about advocacy, there's actually three types. There's personal advocacy, that's speaking up for yourself. And this is one that's very important because a lot of people will go to the doctor and they're afraid to say what they need. You got to be able to say, write it down. Here's a list of what you need. Don't let your spouse talk for you, your care partner talk for you. Talk for yourself to the doctor. It's horrifying to find out that even today, I hear from women, especially young women, where they go to a doctor who talks to their husband instead of them, which is really not right. So throw out your care partner out of the room and talk to the doctor and say, this is what I need. This is my problem. Talk up for yourself. And then there's advocacy in your community, and that's meeting with other people in your community, joining the Parkinson's social network that you're in, just becoming part of your community. And then there's global advocacy, and that is writing to your congressperson about pesticide use and Parkinson, getting out in the bigger community, the worldwide community. So anyway, so the phone calls were the beginning of becoming an advocate. And then I wrote my first blog post on March 22nd, 2015. And I just have a sample of it right there. It was very simple, didn't write very much. And then it became much more complex as time came on. And I've published at least twice monthly ever since I started this. And along with Carl, I'm proud to say I've been recognized in numerous top 10 lists of Parkinson's bloggers and influencers, as we're now called. So it's pretty exciting what's happened with that. And it's opened up the whole Parkinson's world for me. It's been amazing. Let's go to the next slide. So, so as far as advocating for women with Parkinson's, which has really become my concentration after all these years, after I started my blog, I found out from another blogger about a conference that the Parkinson's Disease Foundation was having, and called the Women in PD Initiative. And you had to apply for it. They accepted 25 women. And I applied for it, and uncharacteristic me, I hounded them until they let me in. I was really excited to go. I didn't know anybody else there. And met women from all over the country. And we spent 2.5 days in some hotel in the middle of New Jersey, doing all things Parkinson's. And I already had my blog, and I had a t-shirt that said Twitchy Woman, which I had found online. And by the way, I found out that a Twitcher is a bird watcher. So this bird watching site had a t-shirt that said Twitchy Woman. So I bought it. Now I have my t-shirt with my logo with the tulip on it. But At the time, that was what I had, and I wore it through the whole conference, but it was great. And we were asked to do something when we got home to our community. So I thought, well, let's just start an informal support group for women. So I invited the women I knew who were responding to my blog who lived in California, or invited them, and I had 3 people respond. And the day before, one of them called me and said, I'm not coming. I've never met another person with Parkinson's. I don't know what to expect. I'm afraid. So I said, okay, we'll meet for coffee. So there was another coffee. But the other 2 came over and we decided, let's try this again. We'll do it at a restaurant. We'll get a speaker. And we did. And we had 15 women come. And they did not want a support group. They wanted to have fun. So we started calling ourselves the non-support support group, just because that's who we were. So we would meet every 4 to 6 weeks. It was very informal. We had boxing, we had yoga, we had dance for Parkinson's, we did arts and crafts. We had speakers of all different kinds until the pandemic hit. And then our next meeting for the was supposed to be March 22nd, 2020. This is 5 years to the day after I started my blog. So since our class was canceled, we went online on Zoom. We had 9 women for our first meeting of Sunday mornings with Twitchy Women. And I thought, this will be a temporary thing. We'll do it for a month or 2, and then the pandemic will go away and we'll stop doing this. And we'll go back to meeting in person. Well, here we are 4 years later, still doing all this stuff, and having speakers and all kinds of activities, anything exercise. I get a huge turnout. Everybody wants to know about exercise. We've had about 60 programs over 4 years, and over 1,500 people from around the world have joined us, mostly women. I found out early on this group wanted to be women only for privacy issues. And every once in a while, depending on who the speaker is, I would open it up to everyone, care partners, husbands, friends, whomever. But it was funny. What was happening was the women started bonding with each other through these twice monthly meetings online. They started talking to each other. And then they started saying, hey, there's a man on here. How did he get on here? So we had to double down on the rules. I hadn't even noticed that he was on there. But it became a place for these women to come to and to bond. And there was nothing else available. All our classes were cut out. So think about it. All our support systems were gone for 2 to 3 years until things started up again. So we became the support system. And one of the interesting things that happened was when the world started opening up again, women were going back to church. So I started losing them. But that was okay. I was glad I was losing them because they were doing something meaningful. And a lot of them were coming back and watching the recordings, which was just fine. But because of this amazing program, a few things happened. We started several chat groups. One with a couple of the women came to me and said, "Can we start a chat group for anybody?" And they, no agenda, and they've been running it for 2 or 3 years now. We have some private Facebook groups. We have over 500 women in the Twitchy Women group. And we started mentoring because I started getting phone calls and emails from people who were desperate because they came home. They were literally on the way home from their doctor's appointment where they got diagnosed and said, I don't know what to do. I found you on the internet, help. And at the last World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto, I was talking to several other bloggers, and one of the things that kept coming up was the need to mentor newly diagnosed people because they still weren't getting the right information. They still couldn't get what they needed from their doctors. So we decided to start a mentoring program through our Twitchy Women, Sunday mornings with Twitchy Women. 10 women helped develop the program. We contacted some other mentoring programs with other organizations, and we put it together, and it was up and running within 3 months. And we've mentored, 250 women over the last 2.5 years, which is amazing. So And one of the great things is one of the women made a very large donation that we decided would subsidize women to go to the World Parkinson's Congress in Barcelona. And we had 11 teardrop deaths. We had nine women who we sponsored. And I am happy to say they had a fabulous time, and they are all back in their communities doing things, paying it forward, becoming wonderful Parkinson's advocates in their communities. And it's been an amazing thing to watch. So let's go on to the next slide. So, as I said, I went to the World Parkinson's Congress in 1996, and Portland was the first one I went to. I don't have any photos from that, but I hung out with two great women who are in this photo, Naomi, who is between me and Parky, and Clara, who is on the right side of Parky as you're looking at him. And we had a ball. We had a great time, and people thought we were like high school kids running around. It was just fun. And anyway, we got home, and Naomi said she decided that she wanted to do something for the next World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto because she's half Japanese, and thought, let's do an origami project with Japanese origami cranes with messages of hope. And that's what she did. And I helped introduce her to some people I knew through the Women in Parkinson's Initiative. And let's do the next slide. I think let's see. Oops. I thought I had a picture. Okay, wait a minute.
Do you want me to go back, Sharon, or stay here?
Yeah, go back. I don't know what I think I'm out of order, but that's okay. Okay. No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
But I went in 2016 and 2019, and I thought I had more pictures. Anyway, they had this crane project. They had hoped to make 10,000. They had 20,000 cranes hanging from umbrellas. You can see the paper umbrellas in the background, the Japanese umbrellas, all with messages of hope from around the world in different languages. It was amazing, and it was the talk of the Congress. So let's go to the next slide. And I don't know why. All right, I don't know what happened. It's all out of order. But this
Sharon,
is
you do
okay.
have, excuse me, you do have a photo from the 2023 Congress in the next slide.
Oh, the next slide. Okay. All right. So at this Congress, in Kyoto, I had submitted one poster. The amazing thing about the Congress, if you've never been, is everybody is on the same level. You know, you can talk to anybody. You can be a patient. You can talk to the doctors. You can talk to the researchers. You can go to any session you want to. It's just an amazing conference where everybody is on equal footing. This year we submitted two posters, one on Sunday mornings and the one on our peer-to-peer mentoring program. And this is my poster that you can see on the right. And we had in our group, we had 27 women in our group. 9 of them, as I said, we sponsored, but a lot of others who came. And several of them we had a couple of our mentee pairs. So this poster happened to be chosen for a poster tour, which is something they do every afternoon. And they have certain posters that people can sign up to go see. So we had a group come visit us, and we had to talk about our program. So I introduced the women who were part of this program and a couple of our pairs who spoke about their experience being mentors or mentees working together. And it was really amazing. We got great feedback on it and a lot of interest. And it's just been a fabulous, fabulous program. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a bunch of us standing. You can see the poster behind us on the wall. And it was amazing. It was amazing. This was just part of our group. I've got more slides, but more pictures, but I could only put so many up. We're going to be doing the same thing again next time in Phoenix. which will be great. You know, if you've never been to the World Parkinson's Congress, we're going to be sponsoring women who are going for the first time. Again, we pay for the registration, which is around $500. Okay, next slide. So I know somebody wanted to know about the positive side. So what's the positive side of Parkinson's? Number one is the people you meet. Parkinson's people are the nicest people I've ever met, and you hear this over and over and over and over again. We love each other, right? Carl and Angela? I can't see you, but I'm sure you're
Absolutely,
nodding your heads.
Sharon. Sorry.
Absolutely, you know, I mean, we are the
Definitely.
nicest people. I have
We
to
are.
tell you, I got to Barcelona. We weren't even we hadn't even gotten to customs, and somebody is walking behind us, and he sees, I saw something that indicated that I was with the Congress, and he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, I know you. You're Twitchy woman. You're famous." I'm not famous, but what was amazing was, I mean, here we were, he hadn't even gotten through customs. We get to the convention center, the hotel and the convention center. We start running into people. All these people we've been online with for 4 years. We had never met in person. Everybody was giving hugs and kisses. I mean, we were best friends. You wouldn't know that we had never met each other in person before. It was amazing. So, but what happens is, you know, like I said, the people are wonderful. If you go to any Parkinson's classes, you have a built-in support system, whether it's the people in your boxing class, your dance class, what your writing group, whatever it may be, you have people who are your support system. They know you, you speak the same language. And it's a great place to be, you know, if you have Parkinson's. Now, not everybody takes part in this. And I wish they would, because I think that those are the ones who aren't doing well. If you take advantage of all that the Parkinson's community has to offer, you'll be doing yourself a big favor. Other positive things, I'm doing things I never would have imagined prior to my diagnosis. I boxed. I was boxing. I was in the best shape I've ever been physically. And then the pandemic hit and the classes went online, and that was kind of the end of it for me. Now I'm doing it online again, but I'm doing some games with the Oculus headset, and boxing is part of it, and it's a lot of fun. I'm playing table tennis, which I did as a kid, but I'm doing really well now because I played tennis for 45 years, and the skills are adaptable. Writing this blog, I never would have been writing. It's not something I was not in my wildest imagination that I would be writing something as long as I have been for 9 years. Learning a new language. You can learn, take up an instrument that you've never played before. Go back to an instrument you haven't played in years. I have a piano. It's been sitting here. I finally started taking piano lessons again. It was fun. Although I had problems visually going from the page to the piano and back up to the music, and I kept losing myself. But there's a lot of positive sides to having Parkinson's. And the last one I have listed here is being in the best shape ever physically, literally. I mean, I have been working out with the trainer a couple of days a week, but I upped my exercise, and I was exercising a lot. I still am. And I think that is the reason why one of the reasons why I'm doing so well after 15 years. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So at this point, I'm going to stop. We can stop sharing the screen. I want to thank you, all of you, for joining me today, and we can open it up to questions. So how are we doing time-wise?
Great, Sharon. Yeah, we have about you're great. You're about at the 15-minute mark, 16-minute mark. So plenty of time
Okay.
for some questions.
Okay. All right, let me see what's in me. Okay.
I think you're caught up. Maria
Let's see.
wanted to ask you a question. I don't know if it's too personal or not, but
Okay, I had been on Effexor for years for anxiety, and something new came out. My doctor tried to put me on it. That was a disaster, and I don't even want to go into that. Anyway, eventually I ended up on Lexapro, and I've been on Lexapro for quite a while, and it works. It keeps me even. You know, yes, I get anxious. The panic attacks are gone. The new one that he had tried to put me on didn't address panic attacks. And that's what was why it was a disaster. When if you've had a panic attack, it's just awful. But it's different for everybody. You have to find what works for you. Any other questions?
There weren't any others in the chat, Sharon, but
Okay.
I'm gonna ask.
Hi, Angela.
Who is that? I can't
It's
see.
Carol.
Hey, Carol. Hi, Carol. How are
Carol.
you?
Good. How are you? Hi,
Good.
Hey, Carol.
This
He's
has been
behaving
so-
himself, Carol. Do you have a question for Sharon?
This has been so interesting. You have an incredible reputation, Sharon, and I've
thank
heard
you.
so much about you. And I love being part of Angela and Rob's. I always have such a conflict with meetings or whatever. And I said, I gotta make this today. I ran home from an appointment and only was a couple minutes late. But it's very interesting. Just got back from the 30th annual Parkinson's Unity Walk, which is now under the Fox Foundations. And we actually closed the doors of the Parkinson Alliance for about a year, but I am reopening them again with the podcast. And it's so interesting. You made a wonderful statement, Sharon. It's so hard for people to understand, I think. We have so many wonderful organizations and so many support groups and so many wonderful organizations like what Carl and Angela started. But how many times do you go to a support group or do you go to a seminar and somebody will have never heard of a movement disorder specialist? I was at an essential tremor seminar the other day, and this gentleman has said, I had a PCP and a general neurologist. Why have I never even heard the words deep brain stimulation? I mean, I think it's so important that, there's so many people now, we know it's like 90,000 a year instead of 60,000. And you would think with all the education that we have that everyone would know where the resources are and how to get answers, but they don't.
They don't.
Really don't. And it's one of the reasons that we decided I'm going to start a podcast for the Parkinson Alliance. We're not going to do events. We're not going to do anything like we did before. But even though we closed our doors, I still have a lot of people that email and call and go, can you help me? Can you explain something to me? And you're absolutely right. And I think we all have to remember that we can never have enough education. There's always going to be people out there that get diagnosed and they don't know where to go. And they get on the internet and sometimes they find something that works and sometimes they don't find something that works. So we all need to keep that up. And you have done an amazing, amazing job. You have an incredible reputation. And I just wanted to hear how you built, how you started just one person at a time. Look at what Carl and Angela did, one couple at a time. So we can never have enough of those. And I'm so glad I got to at least hear you today because you've done an incredible job. And I think it's so important that we all remember, no matter how much education there is out there, there's still people who are lost and don't know where to go and don't know how to find, how to find something. So, and all the new technology we have and biomarkers and all kinds of incredible things. Now we really have to work harder and keep going and help those people.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem is the people who are falling through the cracks.
I know.
They're going to a general practitioner who doesn't know much about Parkinson's.
I know.
They will go, who will refer them to a neurologist who has got so many different diseases, he can't do any of them well, he or she. The one I went to has a great reputation for MS. For Parkinson's, I thought he was a disaster, and I have a friend who goes to him who has MS and she swears by him. She thinks he's wonderful. And I've heard this from a number of people. But switching to a movement disorder specialist made a huge difference in my life. They aren't available everywhere. I know that. And that's a problem. But one of the things we need to do is educate our doctors. So if you're in a position where you can give information to your doctor, whether it's your general practitioner or even your neurologist, and say, why don't I know about this? Why, you should be telling me about these things. You're at that.
It's a matter of time. They run out of time.
They run out of time, but they don't know about it. They aren't trained. The training for Parkinson's in medical school is very, very limited.
Right. Yeah, it's very
And
true.
and even for a neurologist, it's one of many brain diseases.
I think some of
So
the pharma companies, and over the years they have tried, but the pharma companies would love it if they had enough money and enough time to even do some kind of a program where they help primary care physicians start at the bottom of the rung before you even get, focused on.
well, I will
something
tell you
else.
with my doctor, at one point I said to him, why didn't you send me to a movement disorder specialist to begin with? He says, I didn't know that wasn't a better option.
Right.
He didn't know.
That's sad.
And what the sad thing is, a lot of these neurologists who do not have, they're still going on Cinemet is the only medication out there.
Right.
They don't know that there are other medications.
Right.
They don't know that they should start you on that, not Requip, to see if it's effective. And this was before PET scans when I was diagnosed. It was a
Right.
whole different ballgame then. But there are still doctors out there today who just don't have the information. And
It's true,
and this is how you can advocate for yourself and for others, is by educating your doctors. And my doctor said to me, you know more than I do. He did.
That's why he's still practicing medicine, he or she.
Yeah, actually, he just retired, which I'm very sad about. But this is my general practitioner. He was wonderful. But
I was listening to Michael Oken yesterday, who did something for the Silver Bullet, and he was talking about all these trials that people are so unfamiliar with, where, your L-DOPA doesn't lose its power after a few years. You may need to change the type you take, and it's still the gold standard. And we have wonderful new delivery systems that are really, really going to help people. And something that he said that I really had not heard in a very long time is that for those people, you talked about sleep and the importance of it, Sharon. Something that I think a lot of people don't think about when they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't go to sleep. If they take a little dose of L-DOPA, in many cases, it puts them back to sleep. And that's the first time I had heard that in a long time. I thought that was
I've never heard that either.
Point.
Now, Lori Mishley turned me on to over-the-counter melatonin. I think it's Nature Made. It's called Back to Sleep. It's 1 milligram of melatonin along with a couple of other things, and it really helps. And I will take that in the middle of the night if I can't go back to sleep. And it's only 1 milligram of melatonin, so it doesn't give you a hangover.
Right.
But the other nice thing, which she didn't say, I will take it at night if I can't fall asleep, if I'm anxious, and it will calm me down.
Right.
And it helps you go to sleep. And I think it's Nature Made. I can look it up. And
melatonin
let
is
you guys
wonderful. Absolutely. All right. Well, I have to run to another meeting, but
thank you.
great
Thank you
to
for
see
your feedback.
everybody. So nice to finally meet you and hear your wonderful story. And Carl, I have your guys' phone number. I want to put you on I'm building a database again, and I don't have your email. So I'm going, you have my email, right, Angela?
We do. Yeah, Karen, we'll send you an email. Make sure you have it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
And Sharon, we are receiving, just a general housekeeping, we are receiving some background noise. So if you do have conversations going in the background, you may want to mute yourself temporarily. We do have a couple questions in the chat, Sharon.
Okay. Yeah.
And Maria commented that she wanted to know if anybody lived near close to Port St. Lucie in Florida, about an hour away from West Palm Beach, and did anybody know of a movement disorder specialist in that area? She's having a hard time finding somebody. So if you're not in the chat and you live near there, can you just click into the chat and let Maria know? She would love to know if you know a movement disorder specialist over there.
And Maria, I will warn you, I've heard horror stories where people try to get into a movement disorder specialist and being told 2-year wait. It's a 2-year wait. You really have to be persistent. And if you can't find that person, look for a neurologist who does handle a lot of Parkinson's patients, you know, who has a good reputation.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have been to like 3 neurologists, and each time I call and ask the receptionist, are they a movement disorder doctors or neurologists? They would say yes, but by the time I see the doctor, they would say no, they're not movement disorder. So I kept on going.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Maria, you may
yeah,
want to try to Google. There is an International Society of Movement Disorder Specialists, and they do have a registry. So you may try that as a place.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's also an Amy Lindbergh put in there. I forgot about. I had this woman speak. Synapticure is an online. It's a telemed movement disorder specialist. So if you cannot find someone local, you can always go to them. I if you go to my blog, if you look at my past, if you go to Sunday mornings and the page Sunday mornings with Churchy Woman, go down about a year ago. I had this woman from Synapticure talk, and you can get more information on there.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Lori, did you have a question?
I'm just a little overwhelmed, but it's wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody coughed. It was okay. It might have been
It's
Sharon.
my husband. My husband who's got the cold that I gave him.
Oh
He
no.
got it from me.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead, Lori. Did you have, go ahead.
I'm just a little overwhelmed, but it's wonderful. So I would like to find a movement disorder specialist. That's what I'm looking for. So I've
Where do
never
you
heard
live?
of that. Portland, Oregon.
Where do you live?
Portland, Oregon.
Okay. First of all,
Oregon.
contact Lori. Go to Lori. Talk to Lori Mishley.
I'll type her
well-
name in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Oregon
Lori-
Health Sciences is located in
Yes,
Portland.
I go there. I go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
you're
Lori is. Yeah, they all know who Lori is.
yeah.
I don't know where she's. Is she at our Oregon Health Sciences?
I'm
She is
not
in
sure.
our. She is. She's an ND. Yeah, naturopath, and she's
What's
wonderful.
your name?
Lori Mishley, Mishley, and she's also spoken to my group a couple of times.
Okay, thank you.
She's done a lot of the. She's been studying people with Parkinson's long term to find out who are the outliers, who is doing well, and why. And she's one of the few
Okay.
who's doing that.
And I think
And
Go
she
ahead,
said
Lori.
OHSU, is that right?
I
If-
think so. I'm not sure. You know what?
Okay.
I can-
OHSU does
after-
have a movement disorder center focused on Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Who does?
OHSU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I know. Yeah,
How
there's
does
a lot of
Legacy help?
resources available there. Yeah.
Oh, legacy movement disorder at Legacy, you said?
Yes, Legacy Health.
Yeah,
Okay, I know where
actually,
that is.
Oregon Health Sciences University was one of the co-sponsors when the World Parkinson Congress was in Portland, Oregon, three congresses ago. So that's how I know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Lori, I'm sorry, Lori is in Seattle. She's not Portland, right? But
No.
yeah, go to OHSU
Okay.
and yeah,
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
okay. And let me look up
And Sharon, Amy put in the chat that she loves her Twitchy Woman t-shirt. She's making a recommendation with a different, maybe larger font. She wears hers with pride. Conversation
I
starter. Breaks the ice. And
Yeah. Well, I
good
have a new
job.
one that is oh shoot. Let me hold on. We have a new one. Where'd it go? Amy, this was made for you.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me
And,
spotlight it so I can
Okay.
make it
It's
easier.
not, the font isn't any bigger, but it's tie-dyed.
Oh, wonderful.
And I have a few in stock. They were on the sale, but I have a few. I have a small and probably a medium. And if you want one, it's yours. All right. We'll talk separately.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Okay.
Love it.
Great.
Um,
Do we have any other
okay.
questions? There were no more in the chat, Sharon, but I didn't know if somebody wanted to raise their hand or make a comment.
yeah. Okay.
Your presentation was wonderful. I found it to be
It was.
positive. I really think that your message all throughout your presentation is super positive about being an advocate for yourself, but also an advocate for the community. So I commend you
Yeah.
in doing that and being a blogger for almost 10 years, which in
Almost 10
itself is-
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long time, and it's like, okay, what am I going to write about now? But sometimes they just come, and it's like there'll be something that it's like you hear something, you go, okay, I can run with that, and other times I have nothing to write about, so I just pull from the news. So, just
Carl, did
gotta-
you have a comment?
No, I think Honor has a question.
Yeah.
Honor has a
I
question.
No, I just have a comment. I just thank you so much for all you've done and for what all of you ladies have done. I have been newly diagnosed 3 years ago, and I'm still sort of in the struggling stage. And I have just, your wealth of information has just been invaluable to me.
Oh,
To
thank you.
you
Well,
and
join us on Sunday mornings.
all of
Right now
you.
we're meeting once a month for the summer, because I
Okay.
just needed to cut back. But
Okay.
if you go to my website, all the information is there, and you can sign up.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Sunday. We're going to be talking about ping pong for Parkinson's.
Okay. And the website is twitchywoman.
Twitchywoman.com.
Okay.
It's in the chat,
Twitchywoman.com.
Honor.
Okay. Pardon
Yeah.
me?
It's in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
and there's
just really
information about the
appreciate
mentor
everything.
program. Yeah, and it's
Okay.
it's become very complex. There's a lot of moving parts on that website. And I've had a
Okay.
wonderful student from USC who graduated last week who has been working with me, and now she just graduated, so she's gone. I have a new person who just started, and hopefully she will be there to help me do these presentations. She'll be
Okay.
here on Sunday helping me. But otherwise it's me, and we're all volunteers like you. Everybody,
Okay,
all the
thank you.
the people who run my mentor program, it's all volunteers.
I got
It's
a question.
amazing. It's amazing. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Somebody else had a question?
Maria?
Yes, I have a question. Is there anybody who have heard or who knows of any stimulator that PD patients use that has helped? Because I've been to, somebody was wheelchair assistant, and her father coincidentally was a PD patient, and she said something like he couldn't walk before, but with this machine that he stands on like couple of minutes a day really improved him to walk, started walking.
There's a lot of things. They're looking into a lot of things. There's vibration plates that you can stand on or sit on that will
Yes.
vibrate. There's the vibration gloves are in a phase 3 trial now, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things out there, and I actually have one of the volunteers came to me a few months ago and says, "Can I start sending you a monthly update on clinical trials?" So she's every month comes up with these things to put in there. So we now have a clinical trials corner, as she calls it, and we have
Yeah.
some of those trials on there, which you can choose to look into or not. But and I try once a month or so to just update. In my blog post, I'll put in things like that. What
Okay.
the newest things I found, but it's trial and error. Everybody's different. There's a lot of new
Right.
things. Somebody came to me with a bodysuit that vibrates. You know, you wear it like 2 hours a day. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they
Okay,
work? I don't know.
I see. So there's no place or a website that I can just look into it, right?
No, not that
No,
I know
okay.
of.
Well, thank you for answering the question.
You're welcome. I saw somebody else. Was there another hand up? No? Okay.
I didn't see.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Sharon, for sharing your information
Yes.
and support and positivity with all of us.
Yes, yes.
My pleasure. And I didn't cough the whole time, which is great. So,
Well, I hope Mr. Twitchy feels better.
yeah. Yeah, you know, I've had it for 2 weeks. That's the problem with Parkinson's, and you get a cold, you just can't get over it. You know, because you can't dry it up. Anyway. All right.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you so
I hope
much,
to
Really
see you.
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
And I hope to see all of you in Phoenix in a couple of years.
Definitely.
And if
Oh,
you're ever
good.
coming to
Yes.
LA, let me know. And if you're coming to
And-
LA, give me a call.
And please, you can follow her and sign up for the blog, and also sign up for the Sundays with Twitchy at twitchywoman.com is her website address. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Bye.